Assalamualaikum to all you for English pupils. I am Cikgu Wan and I will teach you science. So for our first science lesson, I will explain to you what is scientific skills. Scientific skills are skills that use scientific methods when carrying out investigations. Scientific skills consist of sign process skills and manipulative skills. So now let's take a look at science process skill. There are 12 science process skills. The first one is observing. Observations are made by using the senses of sight, hearing, touch, taste or smell to gather information about an object or a phenomenon. For example, observing the characteristic of the parts of a plant. The second skill is classifying, using observations to sort and group objects or phenomena based on the same characteristics. Objects with the same characteristics are grouped into the same group. For example, the classification of animals based on their physical characteristics. The third skill is measuring and using numbers, making quantitative observations by stating measurement in the form of numbers. For example, measurements of volume, mass, length, area, and time. To obtain a consistency, standard measuring tools are used. For example, measuring time with a stopwatch. Next is making inferences, making initial conclusions that are reasonable, which may be true or not true to describe an event or observation. For example, making inferences based on the observations in an investigation on the properties of object. Predicting is making initial expectations about an event based on the observations and experiences or collected data from other investigations. Prediction may be true or false. Prediction also can be made more than one. Predicting is not the same as guessing because predictions are made based on observations, past experiences, data or patterns or trend. For example, predicting based on the observation in a diagram. Next skill is communicating, which is recording and presenting information gathered or telling a story about the results of the investigations to others. Information can be presented in the form of verbal, writing, graphics such as tables, graphs, diagrams, sketches, and concept maps or models. Questioning, discussing, and explaining are also communication skills. Using space and time relationship, describing changes in parameters such as position, direction, shape, size, volume, weight, and mass with time. Arranging occurrences or events in a chronological order. Describing the position, movement, direction, arrangement in the space, size, and shape of an object based on the change in time or comparison with other objects. For example, carrying out an investigation to determine how the interval of time affects the volume of water collected in a measuring cylinder. For the next skill is interpreting data, giving rational explanations about an object, event or pattern derived from collected data. Most commonly asked keywords and questions are trend or pattern, which state the trend or pattern of the information collected. Aim, what is the aim of this investigation? Relationship or conclusion, state the relationship or conclusion from this investigation. And the last one is summary, write a summary based on the information. For example, recording data or information from the investigation on the ability of different sizes of handkerchiefs to observe water in a table. So, from the data and information, pupils are able to explain the trend or pattern of changes in volume of water absorbed, aim of the investigation, relationship between the size of handkerchief and volume of water absorbed, and also the summary based on the information gathered. Next is defining operationally, giving an interpretation of a concept by stating what must be done and what should be observed. Defining a term through your own experience. For example, giving definitions of 3 types of objects based on what were done and observed in an investigation. Controlling variables is identifying all variables that can affect the result of an example. A variable is manipulated to observe its relationship with the responding variable. The other variables are kept constant. So there are 3 types of variables. Manipulated variable, that is changed systematically. Responding variable, that is observed during experiment. And the constant variable, that is kept the same during experiment. So, for example, identifying the variables involved when investigating the ability of 3 materials to absorb colored water. So, from the investigation, the manipulated variable is type of material, responding variable is height of colored water absorbed, and the constant variable is size of material, initial volume of colored water, time taken for each material to absorb the colored water. Next is making hypotheses, stating the expected outcome of an experiment which may correct or incorrect. A hypothesis relates the manipulated variables and the responding variables to explain an observation or event. The hypothesis can be tested or to determine its validity. For example, making a hypothesis by identifying the manipulated variable and responding variable from a data table. And the last one is experimenting, planning and conducting an investigation to prove a hypothesis by collecting and interpreting data until a conclusion is obtained and writing a report. So there are few steps involved in conducting experiment, such as planning an experiment, experimenting and collecting data, interpreting data, making a conclusion, and reporting the result of the experiment. For example, planning and conducting an experiment to determine whether the increased size of magnets can increase the number of paper clips that are attracted. So that's all that I will explain to you for today. Next is for the discussion tomorrow. I need you to read about science process skill in your science textbook on page 2 and 3. So please observe the situation on the page that mentioned before. And I will ask some questions during our PDPR tomorrow. And I will explain to you the task that you need to do for tomorrow. Okay, thank you pupils.